Ratchet & Clank, Up Your Arsenal is the third game to one of my favorite PlayStation franchises, which also turned 20 last year, and it's the only past franchise Sony seemingly cares about next to God of War. In this game, Ratchet & Clank return to the Solana Galaxy after learning that an evil scientist named Dr. Nefarious is hell-bent on destroying all organic life in their galaxy. With the aid of some old acquaintances and Captain Quark, Ratchet & Clank will have to shoot their way through paths of death, bloodthirsty noids, disposable popstars, horrifying implications that went over your head as a kid, and some weird shadows and crazy lights because I'm emulating this game and there might be some weird bugs. With that said, I am the toasty dude named Thomas, and this is my experience with Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. The game begins sometime after going commando. We join Ratchet & Clank chilling in their bogon apartment while playing what I'm assuming is some kind of space chess.
Coming. Hey, what are you doing?
Check and mate.
What? That's cheating!
On the contrary, the rules clearly state that the Blargian Snagglebeast has an allergic reaction to swamp flies that last 2 turns.
Yeah, whatever that means. The two then turn their attention to the TV, where we see that in the time leading up to Up Your Arsenal, Clank has gotten his own show called Secret Agent Clank, and it's all kinds of cheesy.
You missed! So much for the famous Secret Agent.
Shocking.
See, this is what Netflix needs to become #1 again in the streaming wars. Also, Ratchet begrudgingly plays Agent Clank's chauffeur. Why did Ratchet decide to play the role if he hates it so much? I don't know. But after that, Ratchet then changes the channel to the news, where our heroes discover that the Solana Galaxy is in a war against an evil supervillain named Dr. Nefarious, who has sent a bunch of aliens known as Tyrannoids to destroy Ratchet's home planet Veldin. Ratchet and Clank quickly get their ship ready for an emergency trip to Veldin with the use of an untested gravimetric warp drive made out of Blargian scrap metal. The duo arrive at Veldin, where they meet the Galactic Rangers, who mistake Ratchet for their new sergeant and give him the shock blaster, which serves as this game's shotgun. As for the Rangers, they're all kinds of cowardly.
There's too many of them! We're all gonna die!
What, were these guys made by the French or something? Upon heading up to a Tyrannoid ship, Ratchet is then given a nitro launcher that fires out bombs with a huge blast radius. These first two weapons are pretty fun, and are decently reliable throughout the game. And the intro level on Veldin does a pretty good job at easing you into basic combat and how your two starter weapons can be applied to different situations. Then again, if you played Going Commando, you should have no problem getting into this game, but it's still a fun intro level. After eliminating all the Tyrannoids in the area, Ratchet and Clank catch up with the rest of the Galactic Rangers who have been given orders to go to F Sector. Being the cowards that they are, the Rangers refuse, but Ratchet tells them to man the fuck up and get into the dropship to F Sector. F Sector is nothing crazy, all you have to do is just hold out against some Tyrannoids and then a door opens leading back to the dropship. But this won't be the last time you'll be helping the Rangers out. More on that later. Upon heading back to the dropship, Ratchet and Clank are contacted by the President, who recognizes them as their characters from Secret Agent Clank.
How are things on the front lines, soldier? Is that Secret Agent Clank?
Greetings, sir. We are here to help.
Well, this is an honor, and I see you brought your chauffeur along.
What? No. Hold on a second, sir.
Agent Clank, we must stop Dr. Nefarious.
Our President, ladies and gentlemen. He tells our heroes that only one person has been able to defeat Dr. Nefarious and shows a report of this person on
One of nature's mysteries!
and supposedly he was last seen holding a banana.
Or maybe it weren't a banana. It could be.
One of nature's mysteries!
Oh man, no matter how many times I replay this game, that joke never gets old. I swear, you can use it with anything. Why won't Sonic Team add a Chow Garden in another Sonic game?
One of nature's mysteries!
Why doesn't YouTube use YouTube Kids for family-friendly content?
One of nature's mysteries!
Why won't Nintendo give us a legal way to listen to their music?
One of nature's mysteries!
Okay, that's enough. The show also reports that the man is supposedly one of the greatest superheroes who ever lived. Gee, I wonder who that's referring to. Despite Ratchet's skepticism, the President instructs him and Clank to go to Florana and find the man. Upon arriving, the duo get access to a Gadgetron vendor that allows them to buy ammo and new weapons, like the Plasma Whip, an alternative melee weapon that I didn't use a whole lot. It's not bad, but I personally was never too big on alternate melee weapons, especially when you have a wrench to deal with smaller enemies. Here on Florana, you'll get introduced to 2 crates, including a multiplier crate that doubles all XP and bolts gained for a short amount of time, and the Inferno mode crate that makes Ratchet invulnerable invulnerable for a short period of time, letting you rip and tear through enemies like you're the goddamn Doomslayer. While exploring, you'll also come across some of the game's collectibles. The first being titanium bolts that can be cashed in for skins in the special menu. Another is trophies, which you'll find on certain levels or achieve by fulfilling certain goals. What's fun about these is that you can find these items without even being told about them, and it makes you keep a sharp eye out for these collectibles when you first run into them. You'll also get to see your weapons level up, a feature returning from going commando that's been improved upon by allowing your weapons to go up to level 5, with each level adding on a new ability to the gun. The system encourages you to give all 20 weapons a shot because you never know what you'll get from using them. And as you'll see in this video, I kind of get carried away with it and die a few times. After exploring for a bit, Ratchet and Clank then have company.
Where?
Behind you.
Where?
Behind you.
Ratchet, do you seriously not hear the monkey on Clank, or do you become stupid when the plot demands it? Suddenly, Ratchet and Clank come face to face with the Florana tree beast, who punishes the duo by making them walk the path of death. You know, I had a neighbor who made people walk a path of death once. They're all dead now. The Path of Death is a little gauntlet that is filled with all sorts of traps you'd see in Crash Bandicoot. You know, boulders, fire, creepy crawly bugs, you know, the usual stuff. After successfully walking the Path of Death, without taking any damage at all, trust me, Ratchet and Clank try to get some information out of the tree beast regarding Dr. Nefarious, to no avail. Then the beast takes off his mask to reveal that he is actually
Captain Quark?
Oh no! Who could have seen that coming? And thus begins the first boss fight, which is pretty easy. All you have to do is make sure to avoid Quark's boomerang, take down the minions as they come, and you'll beat him no sweat.
So, Quark has completely lost his mind. Now what?
Just keep the mask on. He thinks you are his new leader.
Great.
And so Ratchet and Clank lead Quark and Scrunch, that's the monkey's name by the way, back to the ship, and then get a transmission from Sasha, the captain of the Starship Phoenix, who's been called in by the president to help them out. Ratchet says that Quark currently thinks he's a monkey, and Sasha just tells him to bring Quark to the Phoenix to see if they can fix him up. Upon arriving, Ratchet and Clank are wowed by the majesty of the Phoenix, and Sasha gives them an overview of the ship, which has
holodeck training suite, auto vendors for armor and weapons, virtual firing range, starfighter upgrade system, even a Gadgetron VG9000 game system.
A VG9000?
Of course. With a Mavix Fireball Pro controller, VR headset, and a zero-G dance pad attachment.
hot damn, Sasha must be a real gamer if she has all that stuff.
Will you marry me?
Spoken like a true simp. Anyway, Ratchet and Clank first check out the vendor and earn a classic Ratchet skin for having a save file of the first game, but I sadly can't get the discount because I didn't get to the point where it activates. And then they bring Quark to a holding cell and wonder how he ended up in his current state.
How do you think he got like this?
Well, the life of an intergalactic superhero can be very stressful.
Nah, that's not the real reason. This is the real reason. After getting Quark settled in his cell, Ratchet and Clank head to the bridge, only to find Sasha getting an emergency transmission from the president.
Cannot hold out much longer here.
Mr. President! Dad!
Oof, good luck trying to impress her dad, Ratchet. A transmission from Dr. Nefarious then plays, and it might very well be the best introduction to a main antagonist and his right-hand man ever. Shout out to his butler for letting all the deaf organics know they will die.
As for you filthy organic life forms, you can look forward to being disintegrated! That's all for now.
And so our heroes make haste to Marcadia to stop the Tyrannoids, and it's here where I can show you the power of the Suck Cannon, which has been granted the ability to suck up crates, making it more useful than it was in the first game. There is also the N60 Storm I pick up here, which fires fast but runs out quick. Pretty typical weapon to have in a game like this, and it easily falls behind other weapons later on. There's also the Infector, which is pretty lame. It's supposed to let you brainwash your enemies, but from my experience, it's not really useful, and the lack of footage I have on it should make that quite clear. But the later weapons will be much better, so don't worry, this won't be a pattern. Anyway, our heroes clear out the Noids in the streets and make it to the presidential compound to assist the Rangers, which brings us to a recurring element throughout the game. At some points on a planet, or after clearing the main mission of that planet, you will partake in some missions with the Rangers. In the case of this mission, Ratchet, Clank, and the Rangers must rid the presidential compound of the Tyrannoids and get the defenses back online, which isn't too hard, but what sucks is that most of these missions play out the same. Granted, they'll throw in a vehicle or turret section to shake things up, but even then, they get pretty repetitive after a while, and can make some planets feel like filler, but we'll get to those later. So after clearing out the noise, they meet with the president, who tells Ratchet that Sasha is out of his league.
Sasha's told me a lot about you. Don't get any ideas, kid. She is way out of your league.
I guess saving 2 galaxies isn't enough, huh? Our president, ladies and gentlemen. The president tells our heroes that he's aware of the situation with Quark and says that they're going to have to find his memory for him. For now, he tells them to go repair the city's shield before the Tyrannoids come back.
My daughter tells me you're a man who's good with his hands, Ratchet.
Sir, I swear I never...
The city's...
Can anyone tell me the joke here? Because even to this day, I still can't tell what it is. So Ratchet and Clank head to the laser defense station and pick up the refractor, a gadget that allows them to redirect lasers to certain points, which is an interesting idea that only gets used a handful of times outside of this area. And this spider bot only shows up here. And yes, this is how it plays out with most of the other gadgets you get, which is kind of shitty, but this game was released a year after going commando, so take that as you will. The duo eventually reach the end and find Al, who is trying to fix the shields and is also playing a Captain Quark vidcomic that, according to him, is a retelling of Quark's past adventures. After helping Al fix the shields, Ratchet and Clank decide to take it and use it to restore Quark's memory. The two head back to the Phoenix and play the first vidcomic. In this first episode, we follow the humble beginnings of Quark's career as a hero, but soon having to face his greatest challenge yet. However, judging by the commentary of the professor, some of it might be made up.
No previous adventure could have prepared Quark for his encounter with the dread pirate Blackstar and his crew of... Oh, please tell me this is a typo.
That's robotic pirate ghosts. Guess reading wasn't your subject, eh, Professor?
Then again, what did this professor expect from a story based on eyewitness accounts, bathroom gossip, for some reason, wild speculation, and a magic 8-ball? Shakespeare? But the gameplay for these comics are really where it's at. Obviously, you control Captain Quark in a 2.5D setting and have to jump and shoot your way through the level. There are also 100 Quark tokens in the level, and getting all of them nets you a titanium bolt. There's also a pickup that permanently raises Quark's health that carries across vidcomics, and you can put Quark in a tutu, which I'll show you how to do later. So Quark blasts his way through the ship of Captain Blackstar and comes face to face with an evil space worm. Okay. And after the worm is killed, Quark is heralded as a hero and donates a fee for his heroic service to a fund made for people named Quark.
I've got a big heart.
You sure do, Quark. You sure do. After watching Ratchet beat the vidcomic, Quark's life flashes before his eyes, and we get reminded that Quark shoved a personal hygienator up his ass. Thanks, game. I totally wanted to be reminded of that. But Quark finally has his memory restored, although it will take him some time to adjust. To pass the time, Sasha informs Ratchet of a prototype gadget called the Tyrannoids, which is going to be a prize on the Gladiator show Annihilation Nation. In the stage preview, we see a contestant try to pass a death course, and whoever did the announcer here must have had a lot of fun.
Let's meet tonight's victim. Oops, I mean contestant. Next.
Ratchet and Clank head to Annihilation Nation, where Ratchet gets berated by the announcer.
He's an unemployed rocket mechanic who claims to have saved 2 galaxies. He hopes that disguising himself as a Tyrannoid will make him more attractive to the ladies.
Hey.
So Ratchet proves him wrong by kicking ass in the death course, where by destroying some cameras, I earn a skill point, which are little challenges that give you nothing but the name and where to get it. Some of them you'll get by complete accident, like this one where I clear the death course without getting hit. And earning skill points unlocks you cool stuff like ship colors for every 1 point you get, and a cheat for every 5 you get. Ratchet earns the second Quark vidcomic for clearing the death course, and then takes on 10 waves of enemies, and wins the Tyrannoids from Courtney Gears, who you might want to keep in mind for later. Sasha then gives our heroes a call and informs them that Quark has been put in charge of the fight against Nefarious, which spells some bad news. But we don't have much of a choice now, do we? After doing a few more courses, which are on the same map as the first one, battles, another boss, and picking up the splitting Hydra, Ratchet and Clank head back for the first meeting of Quark's new team called the Q-Force, made up of Quark, Ratchet, Clank, Sasha, Scrunch, Al, Skid McMarks.
Oh, and Helga.
Quark briefs his new team on their first mission to stopping Nefarious, which involves breaking into his lair on Aquatos and stealing some of his data. And by them, I mean Ratchet and Clank, as it seems everyone else gets to stay behind for this one, while Ratchet and Clank have to
wade through a series of tunnels flooded with waist-high raw sewage.
What?
After the presentation, Ratchet and Clank play the second Quark vidcomic, where we learn that Nefarious at one point was an organic life form, and honestly, this scene speaks for itself.
To think, they called me insane Lawrence. We'll see who's insane when my pets have exterminated all life on this miserable planet!
Well, that should clear things right up, sir.
Oh my god, I love Nefarious and Lawrence so much. So Nefarious created amoeboids in hopes of taking over Blackwater, and Quark proceeded to stop them by stalling for time. But he eventually beats back the slimy creatures, forcing Nefarious to retreat, and Quark...
What? I held my breath.
Sure. After that, our duo head to Aquatos. On the way, Ratchet and Clank get a call from Clank's director, who needs him for a shoot, but Ratchet decides to fuck with him with a fake static trick.
Breaking up.
You know, I can see you, weasel boy.
Oh yeah? How about now?
The two arrive on Aquatos, where things went to shit in the playthrough, because for some reason if I paused at any point on Aquatos, this happens. Until later, I found a video of this glitch which had a commenter who figured out that all you have to do is to go to config and enable hardware hacks and select advanced settings and hacks to fix it. Thank you, Henry G. Without your wisdom, I would have had to scrap this project. Back to the story, Ratchet and Clank soon meet up with Skid.
My code name is Shadow Dude, bro.
Oh, my bad, Shadow Dude, who offers to help the duo by using his hacker to help them progress through the path to Nefarious' office, and lets you test out the Spitting Hydra, an awesome gun that works by having you hold down the fire button to target multiple enemies, and letting it go to unleash a powerful chain shot. Perfect for dealing with multiple enemies, and with this gun and Skid's hacker, our trio make their way through the tunnels filled with amoeboids, and make it to the entrance of Nefarious' lair, where they soon meet with an old acquaintance.
Shh! Clank, did you hear that?
We are not alone.
And it turns out to be Slim Cognito, the guy who sold Ratchet weapon mods in the last game. He has since relocated to Aquatos after he had unknowingly sold a modded weapon to a minor.
I swear the kid looked 18.
And he offers to give you 5 Megacorp weapons, which you can get for free, assuming you have a Going Commando save file with these weapons bought, which I do. For now, however, he only gives you the mini turret glove, which lets you throw out rapid-fire murder machines, and the lava gun, which serves as a flamethrower that eventually turns into a liquid nitrogen gun, which I sadly could not get. After playing around a bit and fixing up the emulation glitch, our heroes make it to Nefarious' base and split up, with Clank going through the ventilation shaft, and Ratchet using the tear guys. Comedy. We begin with the Clank section, which plays the same except that Scrunch will join Clank, who can be used to press switches with the banana-guided autonomous monkey device.
Or the gam.
And it's a nice little shake-up to Clank's gameplay, which still remains the same, with Clank needing to guide gadget bots to a house in order to open a door. After a while, Clank needs Ratchet to raise the bridge. Here, Ratchet must use his Tirageist to convince the noise to open the path forward. You do this by playing a rhythm minigame that, if you screw up, results in Ratchet insulting the Tyrannoid. But soon, Ratchet raises the bridge up for Clank so that he and Scrunch can get to Nefarious' office, and Ratchet soon follows suit. Within Nefarious' office, our duo find an encrypted star map and the secret Agent Clank holovid collection, which Clank finds rather disturbing. After stealing the star map, Ratchet and Clank jump down a pipe and find themselves in the sewers, where they find the plumber, who offers to pay them some bolts for any sewer crystals they find, and you bet I grabbed every sewer crystal I could so that I could get all that cold hard cash. Elsewhere, Lawrence, that's the name of Nefarious' butler, informs him that Quark and the Q-Force infiltrated his office on Aquatos, and he's obviously not happy about this.
Oh, Janice, you'll always be the love of my life.
You really should have that looked at.
Back to Ratchet and Clank, our heroes head back to the Phoenix to get their next mission from Quark, which has them leading an assault on the Tyrannoid home planet Tyrannosis. And where will Quark and everyone else be?
We'll be monitoring the situation closely from here. Actually, we'll be down at the lunch buffet on deck 5. It's Meatloaf Day.
Wouldn't tacos work a little better? Cause, you know, there's always Taco Day at school. Taco Tuesday? No? I mean, whatever. So our heroes head to Tyrannosis to begin the assault, which has them taking down the mortars. And then Ratchet and Clank must use an assault vehicle with Scrunch on top to travel to and take down the anti-air turrets across the battlefield, so they can head into the main part of the base and face off against the terrifying Mother Tyrannoid, who, after a few suck cannon shots, mini turrets, and a lava gun, goes down without a problem. Quark then shows up and doesn't even bother to credit Ratchet for the kill.
I couldn't have done it without these massive guns!
Wow. What an asshole. After that, there was another mission with the Rangers that is optional, but I did it anyway for the extra bolts. Back at the Phoenix, Ratchet tells of his battle with the Mother Tyrannoid, when suddenly, Nefarious then chimes in and calls the Q-Force pathetic, and tells Clank that he has greater plans for him. Ratchet then has Al track the signal and finds a broadcast of Supervillain Weekly on planet Dax. Knowing that whatever Nefarious is planning is extremely dangerous, Ratchet and Clank set out to Dax, but before they can do so, they have to get some gadgets from Helga, who refuses to hand them over until they beat her new training course. In this course, you get to learn how to use said gadgets, which are the Hyper Shot, a combination of the Swing Shot and Dynamo, and the Hacker, which is this game's hacking gadget, which, lets you hack, and requires Ratchet to collect green nodes and shoot the red ones. There's also a skill point for beating the course in under 50 seconds, which I tried to do, but I gave up because even without the barriers, it's extremely difficult. I don't have anything else to say about what happens next. I just find this interaction funny.
Man is cocky now. Maybe you'd like to meet Helga on the wrestling mat, We'll see how cocky you are, twisted up like a wet noodle.
Maybe next time.
Pansies.
With the Hacker and Hyper Shot in hand, Ratchet and Clank head to Dax, which is one of few levels to have more than one path to explore, one of which leads you to a pair of charge boots, which makes traveling around the Phoenix and some planets much easier. On the path to the left is the main part of Nefarious' facility on Dax, where Ratchet and Clank fight their way through waves of guards while listening to some interesting announcements.
Organic life forms, report to Sector 8 for immediate execution. Thank you for your cooperation.
Ratchet and Clank, after a few deaths, eventually find a terminal that lists a weapon Nefarious created called the Bio-Obliterator. Unfortunately, there's no information on what it does, but they see that a shipment was headed toward the Albani moons and decide to head there, but not before checking out the right path, where they get attacked by an unknown ship, and after dodging the ship's attacks, they can eventually take it down head-on. The duo then find a room where someone was editing a music video of Courtney Gears.
Courtney who?
Come on, remember that bombshell handing out prizes on Annihilation Nation?
Ah, yes. Her specifications were remarkable.
As for the music video itself,
Yeah, what's up, people? It's Courtney Gears. Are you feeling me, robots? I'm feeling you.
wow, Clank was right. Her specifications are remarkable, although the lyrics for this music video are quite questionable.
Can't stand organics, they're soft and squishy. It's time for you and me to rise up and strike back. Don't stop until we dominate. Won't you feel great when we exterminate all organic life?
How you would edit something like this to not make it seem suspicious is beyond me. Then again, if you could make a song saying that all squishies must die, then someone like Frieza from Dragon Ball could make a rap called All Monkeys Can Burn in Hell, and no one would question it. And it's a rap because, Frieza can go black now. Ratchet and Clank come to the conclusion that Courtney Gears might be in cahoots with Nefarious, so the two head back to Annihilation Nation to win another grand prize in hopes of speaking with her again. Before blasting off, the duo get a call from Skid, who has been left in charge of the ship, since Sasha and Quark are currently at a meeting with the President. Ratchet informs Skid that he and Clank are heading to the Albani moons, and Skid for some reason decides to join them, so Ratchet and Clank hit the Albani moons to make sure he doesn't run into trouble. The Albani moons are a pretty cool level. They play like the Thugs for Less jamming array, where the level is a small planet that loops back on itself. Here on the first moon, Ratchet must refract some lasers in order to get access to the second moon. Our heroes then make it to the second one, where they find the last one is guarded by a disintegration field, and they would stay to try and figure out how to turn it off, but they then receive a call from the Rangers who say they need help at Blackwater City. So Ratchet and Clank go to Blackwater, while Skid stays behind and tries to shut down the disintegration field. So our heroes arrive at Blackwater City, which is just one of the multiplayer maps but with some missions with the Rangers. Yeah, remember when I said some planets feel like filler? This is what I was referring to. Some of the later planets are mostly going to be missions with the Rangers, with Blackwater and another planet being mandatory since they have items you need to progress further. In the case of Blackwater, after clearing out the Noids, the Rangers give Ratchet some gravity boots, which allow him to stick to magnetic surfaces. After that, Ratchet and Clank head to Annihilation Nation to do another death course and face another boss named named Scorpio, who has a skill point that requires you to beat him with a wrench, which I attempt to do, but ultimately fail. It's a lot harder than it looks, unless you punch in the cheat code on screen to gain access to a double-bladed lightsaber, allowing you to cut through the boss with ease. The two earn the third Quark vid comic and a chance to talk to Courtney Gears, which Ratchet fails spectacularly at.
It is an honor for you to meet me. I mean, to meet you, Miss Gears. Hi. Hi.
Courtney then turns her attention to Clank, who wants to be in one of his films, which Clank can arrange under the condition she gives some information regarding Nefarious's plan, which she agrees to do. This totally isn't going to backfire in Clank's face at all. Before heading to Hollowstar Studios, Ratchet and Clank go back to the Phoenix to play the third vid comic. In this one, we see that Quark held his breath for 6 fucking days.
For 6 days, Captain Quark clung to the ship like the dung of a giant green space bird.
Anyway, Quark attempts to get into Nefarious's base by using his mastery of disguise, which luckily works, and after blasting through another level with some really catchy music, Quark then corners Nefarious, where he then asks if they have met before. Quark then remembers him from an old biology class back in high school, where Quark was apparently in his mid-20s. Which reminds me of that one cosmetic the Scout from TF2 has, which states that he went to a high school in his 20s to pick up chicks. Quark then gives Nefarious a wedgie for old time's sake, which then leads to Nefarious's literal fall. Quark then leaves the scene blindly, assuming that Nefarious is no more.
But the danger was far from over. For in defeating one menace to the galaxy, Quark had created another, even more terrifying evil.
With the third vid comic out of the way, our heroes then head to Hollowstar Studios to begin filming, which gets off to a rocky start as Ratchet accidentally presses the ejector seat button, ruining the scene and getting him fired.
Take up basket weaving, you're fired!
Scrunch then comes in to replace Ratchet as Clank's new sidekick. We then get thrusted into filming the movie, which is a pretty fun section, which ends with a giant Clank battle in a Godzilla setting. With the film wrapped up, Clank then asks Miss Gears to give her end of the deal, but she gives him a better idea.
Why don't you ask him yourself?
Yeah, Clank pretty much walked into that one. Clank then wakes up in front of Dr. Nefarious, who tells him that he's been admiring Clank and his exploits for a while. Clank then attempts to correct Nefarious by saying that everything he saw him do was just a part of the show.
Squishy
Oh, Len, I can't. It's not right. You're my cousin's uncle's son.
Nefarious then offers Clank to join him in his fight against the Squishies, which Clank turns down, to which Nefarious says he'll give him a reason to join his side. We then jump to Ratchet, who is waiting for Clank, when suddenly he is ambushed by the Tyrannoids, forcing him to explore the studio for Clank. After clearing them out and spending a bit too much time on the gambling machines, Ratchet eventually catches up with Clank, who tells him that Nefarious is aboard a starcruiser called the Leviathan. Ratchet goes to the ship to call Sasha, but before the cutscene ends, we see that something is off with Clank. But that's not important right now, as Ratchet and Clank then get a call from Skid, who is currently in a limo with Courtney Gears. Knowing that Skid might be in danger, Ratchet and Clank quickly head to the last of the Obani moons, where within is a linear gauntlet that requires Ratchet to use the gravity boots until he reaches the testing area, where he and Clank find something terrifying. Courtney Gears tested the Biobliterator on Skid and turned him into a robot. Ratchet then gets teleported to Courtney Gears, where they face off in a pretty intense boss fight, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of things coming at you left and right, which means the mini turret glove helps out here a lot, as Miss Gears will also warp around the arena. But Ratchet's quick feet is enough to defeat her and make her think twice about picking a fight with a gun-toting space rat.
One disposable pop star disposed.
You okay, Clank?
I don't think he is, Ratchet. You probably should get him checked out before you go anywhere else. Sasha then calls in to inform Ratchet and Clank that the Leviathan is at the Zeldrin starport. Ratchet thinks it may be a trap set up by Miss Gears, but decides to bite the bait, since it might be their best chance at stopping Nefarious. So our heroes head to the starport to find Quark, but not before doing an optional path that leads them to a bolt grabber, which increases their, bolt grabbing range, and also gives them the effect of the box breaker from going commando. Ratchet and Clank then catch up to Quark, where through a conversation with Scrunch, we learn that he,
I thought we agreed to put that jungle business behind us. It was mating season. How could I have known she was your sister?
So, first he shoved a hygienator up his ass, and then he did it with a monkey. Quark, what the fuck is wrong with you? Moving on, our heroes make it to the Leviathan and blast their way through to Lawrence and Nefarious, who've been expecting them.
The riffraff have arrived, sir.
Captain Quark, you've put on a bit of weight since last we met.
Yeah? Well, Courtney Gears didn't seem to mind.
That's what makes it so good, Janice. Feel it. My heart is pounding like an anvil.
Nefarious then activates the Leviathan's self-destruct sequence, forcing our heroes to escape, but not before Quark says that there's something he can't leave without. Ratchet and Clank wait at the ship for Quark to hurry back, but Clank grows impatient and launches off without Quark. Back at the Phoenix, Ratchet and Clank receive some grim news regarding Quark.
Did you detect any other craft leaving the Star Cruiser? An escape pod? Another shuttle, maybe? Anything?
I'm sorry, Ratchet. We heard the whole thing over the comlink. You had no choice. Captain Quark died a hero.
And so our heroes hold a funeral for Quark, and Ratchet, despite not being on the best terms with Quark, decides to at least say a few nice things about him.
Such as... he was really tall, and he had a unique fashion sense, and he had a really big chin with kind of a sort of a, well, you know, a butt shape.
I mean, you're not wrong. His chin does kind of have that butt shape. Actually, no, you're not entirely off, Ratchet. It is very butt-shaped. The President then calls in to share some words of encouragement for the distraught Q-Force.
Brave, honest, kind, and humble to the core.
What a load of bullshit.
Ooh, cursing cut off to keep the PG rating. Classic. Al then gives Ratchet the fourth and final Quark vid comic. In this exciting final chapter, Quark has some R&R in Metropolis after defeating Nefarious, until Helga comes in to get Quark back into shape. However, at the same time, Nefarious is commencing an attack against Metropolis, and so Quark rides through Metropolis to find Nefarious and engage him in a boss fight. After Nefarious is defeated once again, Quark gives him a little bit of advice.
Just a word of advice, Nefarious. Quit while you're ahead.
And that ends the Quark vid comic series. Or does it? Because the professor then notices that some of the script is missing, but is then cut off by Quark.
Seems the script is missing a few pages.
Thanks, Professor. I'll take it from here.
I'm sure it was just a last-minute change. I mean, I'm sure it's nothing crazy we missed out on. After beating the comic, Al asks Ratchet if he's going to unlock any of Quark's alternate costumes. And it's here where Al actually shows you how to unlock the Tutu costume you see me use in the video. Pretty clever way to hide a cheat code. Ratchet jumps to the conclusion that Nefarious's next target is Metropolis, since he wants to get back at Metropolis now that Quark is dead. So Ratchet and Clank arrive at Metropolis, where an attack from the Tyrannoids has started, and Clank stares at Ratchet blankly, who once again asks him if he's okay. We then see Nefarious, who reveals that he's been keeping the real Clank prisoner, and the Clank Ratchet has is a fake called Clunk used to keep tabs on the Q-Force.
I call him Clunk. Say, maybe they'll change your show to Secret Agent Clunk. Did you hear that, Lawrence?
You put the wit in twit, sir.
Ratchet moves forward a bit when suddenly, Nefarious fires the Bio-Obliterator, turning all the Tyrannoids in the area into robots, which makes them tougher and makes me die multiple times. That and my insistence on leveling up all my weapons also kept getting me killed. But regardless, I made it through after some perseverance. Ratchet and Clunk make it to Nefarious, where Ratchet discovers that the Clank he has is Clunk. Nefarious commends Ratchet for being a worthy foe, but tells him that their game must come to an end, and has Clunk kill Ratchet, leading to another boss fight against Clunk, who after a lot of Annihilator rockets and N60 Storm bullets goes down in a flash. Ratchet busts Clank out, who blames himself for everything that has happened up to this point. Ratchet says it isn't his fault, and promises that they'll stop Nefarious for Quark and Skid. Before heading back, Ratchet and Clank help the Rangers clear out the remaining Tyrannoids within Metropolis, and beating this optional batch of missions earns Ratchet the Map-O-Matic, which can reveal hidden areas for all the planets in the game. And speaking of planets, here's a bit of useless gaming trivia. If you go back to any planet that has Tyrannoids after clearing the main mission on Kerwan, they will be robotic. And now you know this little bit of useless gaming info. Back at the Phoenix, our heroes catch a news report regarding the recent attack on Metropolis, with everyone acting like Nefarious has won. Ratchet decides to head to planet Zeldrin to see if there's anything in the shipwreck that could help them. Zeldrin is a pretty short but slow gauntlet run, and I guess the developers must have known this because there's an Inferno crate you can use to bypass the enemies due to how short the level is. While While exploring the wreck, Ratchet and Clank find an optional item called the Nanopack that stores nanotech that'll be used up if Ratchet is on the verge of death. Very handy against the final boss. After gliding through the gauntlet, Ratchet, Clank, and Scrunch find an escape pod with a crotchetizer, ew, and a video call that was made with the shuttle and somehow was recorded. The recording shows an alive and well Captain Quark attempting to get a ride off Zeldrin.
I'm on planet Zeldrin. Just look for the gigantic wrecked Star Cruiser. You can't miss it.
Man, Quark really is the master of disguise, huh? Ratchet starts to question what Quark is really doing and also tells Clank to keep what they saw here on the down low, so as not to make the Q-Force lose hope. They also find a data disk that they decide to bring to Al, but before boarding their ship, Ratchet and Clank get a call from the Rangers who need their help on Iridia, which is just another series of missions on a multiplayer map. Clearing this series of missions earns you the trophy Friend of the Rangers for clearing all the Ranger missions, and the Warp Pad, which is needed for an upcoming level. Returning to the Phoenix, Ratchet and Clank find Al doing some tests on Skid, who discovers that there might be a way to reverse the effects of the Bio-Obliterator. How is this possible, you may ask?
The neural matrix of this autonomous simulacrum retains an imprint of the template's original psyche embedded at its core level.
Yeah, what Al said. After giving Al the data disk, he shows Ratchet a 5th Quark vidcomic that was found in Quark's quarters, that was never released. Ratchet, Clank, and Scrunch check it out to see if there are any clues on it. In the true final vidcomic, narrated by Slim, we pick up where the 4th one ended, where Quark told Nefarious to quit while he was ahead, and putting him in the trash can, believing Nefarious was done for good.
But he was dead wrong.
Bottoms up. Somebody say something.
Oh, Quark. I've never met a man like you. After you, I'll be ruined for other men.
That's what they all say.
Moving on. Quark escapes by using his antenna as a lockpick and eventually breaks out of his cell, which leads to a frantic level where Quark must escape rising acid, which he does with ease. After escaping Nefarious's lair, we learn that Quark went into hiding in his hideout on the Thran asteroid belt, in fear of Nefarious popping back up again, and when he didn't return, Quark returned to the public eye.
But the galaxy had not seen the last of Dr. Nefarious.
Whose butt is this?
Oh, my mistake, sir. Dreadfully sorry.
Janice.
Oh, Lance.
Oh my. We will have to get that fixed. One of these days.
Lawrence is such a dickish right-hand man, and I love him for it. Anyway, Ratchet, Clank, and Scrunch head to the Thran asteroid belt to confront Quark. Here, Ratchet must use the warp pad he got on Iridia to progress by setting up a warp point and then warping from another location. He must also take on Lawn Ninjas, Quark bots, the Snowdan, and an alternate pathway that leads him to the Gadgetron PDA that I didn't bother to pick up because I'm not paying 200,000 bolts for it. And besides, I'd rather spend it on the Quacko Ray, which turns enemies into ducks and makes the 100-round battle on Annihilation Nation a total joke. Oh, and I almost forgot, when you first come to this level, Slim calls you to say that he has one of the best weapons in Ratchet & Clank history, now available for purchase, and it's called
the Bouncer.
A gun that launches a big bomb that explodes into a ton of mini-bombs that swarm your enemies and instantly outclasses the Nitro launcher. And yes, the last 2 Megacorp weapons become available on the last couple of levels. Eventually, Ratchet and Clank make it to Quark, and needless to say, Ratchet is justifiably mad at him. And all Quark shows in this cutscene is that he doesn't give a shit about saving lives and only cares about himself.
When I escaped from that Star Cruiser, cheating death by mere nanoseconds, I suddenly realized something very important. I could have died! Me, Captain Quark! Imagine an entire galaxy with no more me.
And Ratchet tells him the worst thing you could hear from someone who looks up to you.
I can't believe I once looked up to you.
Ratchet and Scrunch leave in anger, but Clank tells Quark that it's never too late to redeem himself and be the hero he's always wanted to be. Back at their ship, Ratchet and Clank get a call from Sasha, who tells them to hurry back because the Phoenix is under attack. So they hurry back. Upon arriving, our heroes battle through the entirety of the Phoenix and find everyone else safe. Luckily, Al was able to decode a good chunk of the data disk and says that Nefarious is going to attack planet after planet with the Bio-Obliterator until there is nothing but robots. And the next target is Ratchet's home planet, Velden. Sasha says it's recharging at a base on Koros, so our heroes make haste to Koros. Once there, Ratchet and Clank try to figure out how to take out the Bio-Obliterator. Clank then sees an ion cannon and tells Ratchet to get him in there so he can use the gun to destroy it. Koros is filled to the brim with Nefarious troops, but with the bouncer, Ratchet and Clank get to the ion cannon controls without much trouble.
After all those hollow films,
there is one thing you should know by now. Do not mess with Agent Clank.
After destroying the Bio-Obliterator, Sasha calls in and tells him that they're not out of the woods just yet because Al fully decoded the data disk and found out that Nefarious made another Bio-Obliterator that is currently charging on Mylon. So our heroes haul ass to Mylon, where upon arriving, Slim says that he's got a shield charger on sale, which, I mean, yeah, sure, I'll go grab it. I'm sure the Bio-Obliterator won't leave by then. I also picked up the Plasma Storm, which I had to pay for since I don't have the weapon purchased on my Going Commando file.
What did you guys do to win all these free weapons?
By playing Going Commando before this. Duh! And I guess by extension the first game, but that's only for the classic Ratchet skin. But as for Mylon, Mylon is a grueling gauntlet of some of the toughest Tyrannoids Ratchet has fought, and he will have to use every weapon and gadget he has acquired throughout the adventure, except for the warp pad because who cares about it. Nevertheless, Ratchet, after surviving the grueling gauntlet, reaches Nefarious, but he's too slow. Thankfully, the dropship comes in time to get Ratchet to the launch site, where he has Nefarious cornered.
Lawrence! Lawrence? Lawrence!
How can I be of assistance?
Annihilate him!
Just kidding. You've reached my holographic voicemail.
Once again, Lawrence has proven that he is such a dickish right-hand man, and I love him for it. But now the battle for the galaxy has begun, and Nefarious won't go down easily. Nefarious is actually pretty damn challenging. He has a lot of strong attacks that can cut your health down fast if you're not careful, and later in the fight, the Galactic Rangers come in and actually save Ratchet from the Nefarious troops. But after a close battle, Nefarious is defeated. Suddenly, Lawrence pops in, and Nefarious tells him to begin the transformation. And by transformation, he means turn the Bio-Obliterator into a gigantic mech of destruction. At this point, it seems that Ratchet and Clank are doomed. But then, Quark flies in to give our heroes a hand. This then leads to the second phase, which is pretty anticlimactic. All you have to do is take a hover ship and fire at the Bio-Obliterator until you drain its health bar. I don't get why they couldn't have made this a giant Clank section, though I guess all second phases can't be perfect. But after destroying the Bio-Obliterator, Nefarious is once again defeated by Ratchet, Clank, and most importantly, the now redeemed Captain Quark. Nefarious tells Lawrence to just warp them out of this humiliating defeat, but the Bio-Obliterator's head then ends its 60-second countdown too quickly and explodes with them in it.
Just get us out of here. What? That wasn't even close to 60 seconds! Bye-bye.
After the great battle, Ratchet and Clank finally get to kick back and enjoy the new Secret Agent Clank holofilm with all the friends they've made across their 3 adventures. And after the film is done, Ratchet gets Sasha until the future series, and all is right in the galaxy. However, after the credits, we see that Nefarious and Lawrence somehow survived the explosion and are now drifting in space, doomed to be stuck on a rock for 5,000 to 10,000 years, or at least until a crack in time happens.
I don't suppose you can play drums.
And that's Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. At least story-wise. Gameplay-wise, however, is where things get interesting. After beating the game, you will be given the option to do Challenge Mode, which lets you play through the game again with all the weapons and optional items you found throughout your first run. But that's not all. You also gain access to souped-up versions of any weapons you have gotten up to level 5, and you get access to a Bolt Multiplier, a sketchbook, the ability to skip Quark vid comics, the ability to upgrade your nanotech up to 200, greater rewards from Annihilation Nation and Ranger missions, and the Rhino, the series' all-powerful I Win gun, assuming you actually press the circle button, and not the triangle button, and make the mistake of having to play the Nefarious boss again. But that wraps up my experience with Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal. Coming back to this game was a ride, to say the least. From the gameplay, to the characters, to the writing, and the many other questionable things I had to watch in this game. It may have its issues like some planets feeling like filler and some weapons falling behind in damage, but I still enjoy coming back to this game from time to time, and I definitely want to check out the other games on this channel one day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe I'll make this a series where I share my experiences with the other Ratchet & Clank games and other franchises I'm interested in. For now, I'm gonna head out and try to forget that Quark made out with a monkey. With that said, I am the toasty dude named Thomas, and until next time, have a good one.